Hello, and thanks for joining another episode of Jackman Radio. I'm one half of the Jackman brothers, Eric Jackman, and really excited today to be joined by my friend, Michele Little. She's the founder and producer of Beautiful Dying. She's a death midwife and a very lovely lady who I've known for a long time. And Michele, I'm so happy to have you on today.
Well, thank you. I'm honored to.
Yeah, it's great to connect with you. It's been a little while since we've chatted and reconnected recently, and I know you've been working in this field for a little while now, and it's it's a topic I think it's hard for a lot of people to talk about, or it's uncomfortable, or I don't know, people handle the death differently, and everyone views it differently and processes it differently. So I know we were talking a couple weeks ago about wanting to have you on the show, and we both kind of thought, well, I think it would be great to have you come on a special day like Father's Day, which of course is, a beautiful day to celebrate fathers. And obviously with my father no longer being here, it's a tough day to get through for my brother and sister and I, but on my end, I personally felt it would be great and beautiful to talk about our fathers and talk about Father's Day and just how we carry on in our lives and process everything with them no longer being here.
I think that sounds like a wonderful idea. In fact, if you would like, we can start off with something that I wrote, and then we can light a little candle and then move forward on behalf of Father's Day.
Absolutely.
And you can hear me all right, with my...
Yeah, you sound great.
Okay. I'll shut the air conditioner off for a moment. Whoa, what a difference. So this is for remembering those who have passed. And I wrote it about 2 years ago. And I use it a lot in the work that I do. And it starts off, "Dear one, my life has been so blessed knowing how grateful I am to have had you in my life. Sharing your wisdom, laughter, and joy of living a full life with all of its experiences has deeply affected me in the most positive of ways, and I thank you. May the light of the universe illuminate through your body, allowing your soul to be released into your next journey with grace and ease. I love you, and goodbye."
Wow, that's really nice.
We'll light this little guy. Let's see. Can you see the light?
Yeah.
It's there. It's definitely lit. Okay.
Oh yeah, I see it.
And I put it on my laptop.
Nice.
So,
That's beautiful, Michele. Yeah, so like, I was telling you before we were rolling here, this is my fourth Father's Day without my father. And, it's difficult. Every day is difficult, but of course, Father's Day is a little extra hard because, you see a lot of people around you who still have their dad and they're celebrating with him in person and going out and honoring him and, doing the things they love to do with him. So, for me this year, I just kind of made a conscious choice that I didn't want to be sad about it. And I kind of have a nice little memorial in the corner of my apartment with a big blown up photo of my father framed with his guitar on a guitar stand that I grew up listening to him play. I mean, my earliest memories of music are my dad playing his acoustic guitar at home. So to still have his guitar here is a nice, piece of him that still exists. So I figured I'd listen to some of our favorite songs that we enjoyed and, put up a picture of me holding his guitar. So it's just a nice way to keep him close and keep his memory alive.
It's very, very sweet that you had such a loving relationship with your dad. And I think that's really a really important essence to hold on to. My dad's been gone since 1980, 81, I think it is now. And so there are things that happen, I don't have me now with my dad, but and your dad died. How old are you when your dad died?
I was 30. 30. Yeah, 30 years old.
I was 21 or 22.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting thing. There's a teacher, a middle school teacher in Maryland, who every year has his students pick out of a hat a person's name from 9/11, and that child asks us what different things about that person, asking questions so they can write this, whatever they're going to do, this creation they're going to make at the end of this project. And after the project is done, they take a trip up to New York and they go to all these different firehouses and they learn more about their person. And so this year, it was a very strange time, especially with COVID-19 and changing all the rules and mixing us up and turning us into a free world. Some of the questions that this young girl asked me, the student, I couldn't answer. I wouldn't know those answers after all these years of losing David in 9/11. And no, I didn't lose him. He was taken from me. He was taken from us. But there are questions about what was his favorite color? Well, he was colorblind, so that's what his favorite color was. And then another question was he always happy? It was different. Something like, was he always happy? And I'm like, oh my God, like, who's always happy? And how do you work that out? And there was one other question that she asked that I wouldn't have a clue of, like things that are fading away on certain things that they were asking about that's brand new to them that I don't have recollection of anymore. And that's really sad. And then the other thing that happened with that was I ended up sending that information, those questions, to my brother's girlfriend at the time, who, they were madly in love. They were going to move in together. And then 9/11 happened. And I sent these questions over to her to answer because I thought she would be the right one. It wasn't up to me to answer these questions. And she never got back. This girl, then the COVID virus came, and I don't even know what happened to that project. But anyway, it was really more about the whole aspect of questions and not knowing the answers anymore.
Yeah, well, and for everyone watching, this is how Michele and I know each other.
Sorry.
Her brother, no, it's fine. Her brother was a FDNY fireman, David M. Weiss, and he died on 9/11 in the World Trade Center. And when I was in college, I still am a big-time political activist, but I was even more so a big-time activist in getting justice for 9/11, for the families, helping the first responders who were sick and dying. This is before Jon Stewart really grabbed the mantle and was fighting for first responders and passing the Zadroga bill and getting them the health care that, quite frankly, they were entitled to. And obviously, Michele was very active in pursuing those things and demanding answers from our government about what happened. How was the attack allowed to happen? Why aren't we giving health care to all the people who cleaned up Ground Zero? So our paths crossed here in New Hampshire. We did a big event up here for that. And, that's how we got to know each other. And we've stayed in touch throughout the years. And, it's just awesome to still be in touch. One of the nice things about social media, I will say, as toxic and horrible as a lot of it is, there's still a lot of good things you can get from it. So, and that's the thing. The farther away we get from our loved one's death, those kind of questions and things, those might not have been the things we really even thought about when they were alive.
It was just a thing. They just did their thing.
Right.
But, I don't have a lot of history with my dad, so it's just like childhood stuff, which there wasn't much of an impact on my life as I was growing up, except I guess the impact is that he wasn't here. And there was nothing to fall back on or talk to because everybody's gone in my life. So my mom is still here. Her mother died when my mother was 16 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Mom took over the whole household. That was during World War II. And her father was away for three of the most important years of her life, and her mom's end of life while he was in France. He was caught up in the war there and couldn't come home. He was a doctor. So there are things that I'm so happy for you and your brother and your sister that you have your mom and your dad throughout your life and growing up, and there was so much love in your family and so much fun. And you had, your cousins and your aunts and uncles that came to your side all of the time as well. and there was music playing all of the time in your life. And I just think that that is just so amazing, and it's the most beautiful thing is to have music, you know, and participating as a family in music. That's
Oh, it's music is what keeps my dad alive. I mean, there's so many songs um, I just hear, and I can't help but think of him. And my brother and I, he took us to our first concert when we were probably like, I don't know, 12 or 13 or 14. He took us to see the Moody Blues up at Meadowbrook Farms in Guilford, New Hampshire. And my earliest memories being alive is my sister being born when I was 3 years old, and the Moody Blues album, The Present, from the 80s. And my dad had that playing all the time growing up. So all of those songs, that was his favorite album. It's my favorite Moody Blues album. Yeah, I just see him. I see him when I hear those songs, and it's really beautiful. And yeah, we had so many great concert experiences together. I mean, we got to take him to see Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys, half a dozen times. And when my dad was 10, he moved from Newfoundland, Canada, where he was born, out to Ventura, California. And he lived in Ventura, California from 65 to 68 when he was aged 10 to 13. So he was coming of age as a young boy listening to the Beach Boys in California. So it was so cool to be able to share that music with him and how it tied into his life and how much he loved it. And he passed the music down to my brother and I, and then we were able to go and bring him to see Brian Wilson. And then we got to go backstage and meet Brian Wilson. And, we got pictures of that. And it's just, those are amazing memories that I'll have the rest of my life. And it's that connection that really helped form our bond and why we were so close with him. And then obviously he fostered my brother's musical talents, and my brother's a drummer in a pretty well-known local band here in New Hampshire, Northern Stone. And, Tony would come to all the shows and, was happy to be there and see his son drumming and doing something he loved and a talent that he invested. He bought him a drum set when we were, young kids, and it encouraged it. And it's all you could hope for from your parents, is that they encourage the things you love to do as a kid, and never tell you can't do it and you shouldn't do it and it's a waste of time. So that was, that's something, one of the big takeaways from having him as our dad.
what a wonderful time for you, because my generation, which is, I guess, your dad, how old was your dad when he passed?
61. He was born in 1955 and died in 2017.
Right. So I was born in 1959. And so music was a big thing with us. But my parents, we got our first record player, I think, oh no, 1974, maybe. And so we would listen to Chicago and Yes and the Beach Boys and my brothers and I. And but it's interesting, how generations mold our younger generations, and what meant a lot to us, which is music, and how you were able to embrace music into your world and continue to have it. 'Cause music is really important, you guys. Music will set your soul free, and you'll remember who you are from the depths of your heart. I mean, if you look at some dementia patients and Alzheimer's patients, if you bring music into their life, they wake up. It happens practically every time. And then if you ask their family, if their family's still around for them, and you ask what did they listen to when they were younger, and you know what that music is, and you play it for them, they wake up to it. They'll dance, they'll start moving their bodies, which haven't been moved in months or years, whatever. But it's really important. Music is really important.
Yeah, it has an amazing impact. And yeah, I've watched specials about that, how they have these little villages that are for dementia patients and the elderly who are, losing their facilities, where they actually create like a 50s throwback little mini community, and like build like a, what would be a diner in the 50s, and have them all go there and hang out and meet. And they have all the music from that era. And, it brings the person back to a different time in their life, and can really help them while they're, dying at the end of their life. And it can bring comfort to them, and bring comfort to the loved ones who are going through that. And yeah, when my dad was in hospice, we were playing all his favorite music. you know, and that was really nice. Really, very comforting thing.
So how long before he went into hospice was he ill?
So in August of 2016, he was, starting to feel weird and fuzzy. He was kind of like vision was getting impaired in one of his eyes, and he just felt really tired and lethargic, he never felt that way. He was a really active, robust guy. So he went to the doctors and they, did a scan of everything. And that's where they found, on his brain, they said there's something going on in your brain. So we're going to go get a further opinion. And we brought him up to Dartmouth Hitchcock in Lebanon, New Hampshire. And September is when we got the diagnosis. They said he has glioblastoma, brain cancer, and he'll probably live about 5 months. So that was September, and he passed away in the end of January in 2017. So the whole thing was like 5 months. It was quick. It was really quick. So
Very, and I'm so sorry. I'm so
thank
sorry.
you. Thank you.
I remember over the years how wonderful, all the conversations that you have always been wonderful ones. And it's just, what a loving family you all have. And I'm sure it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing what you have. And I'm sorry, 5 months is not a long time to get your plans in order.
Yeah, and then that's the thing. You're going about your business, and then one day all of a sudden your dad's dying, and you kind of have a timeline of when it's going to happen. And there's so many things that you would never think about until it hits you right in the head, and all of that you have to deal with that and process that while you're losing a loved one. So. Yeah, if you want to, delve into a little bit about, I know that's what you do as a deaf midwife. I mean, just kind of bring me through that process. I mean, you help people prepare for that, and when they're in the middle of it, kind of process it.
So yes, as a deaf midwife, I don't wait till the end.
Mm-hmm.
When you're ready to do pre-planning, I am there for you. And it's not about, waiting, for a result from a scan. It's not then. I want people to start bringing death and the dying process into our life, our daily life, because every breath we take and every breath we let go of is another moment that is gone. So you might as well learn how to encompass and know that there is a continuum of life, and it's not like if you have a coin in your hand, it's not heads and tails here. Heads and tails are on one side of the coin, and that's really important to know. So for me, it's taking care of your advanced healthcare directive right now. That's the biggest number one thing that people should do. And you can go online. Every state has them. It's free to download. And it's like 3 or 4 pages of, well, I have one right here. Let's see. This is one type of an advanced healthcare directive. This comes from California. It's a downloadable directive that says who's going to be your agent if you can't speak for yourself, which is something to think about. It's not scary, and you just go, oh, I really feel my best friend is the one who's going to be able to execute my wishes. It may not be my husband. It may not be my daughters. Maybe they can't follow through with the things that I want. Like, I don't want to be intubated. I just don't. But at what point do I not want to have that happen? So there's lots of questions that you have, and then on these forms, if it doesn't answer exactly the way you want it to be, your wishes, you can cross things out and add your information in, and then initial it and with your date and time. And then you also get 2 unbiased witnesses to sign off on it. And here's the biggest thing is, like, even if you started one today and you look back on it 6 months from now and you've learned some new things that are happening in the world when it comes to your process of moving forward and dying, you can change it. You can cross it out. rip this up and start all over again. And that's probably the bigger part. Like if people are scared to start something like this, just know that you can change your documents anytime you want, but you also need to list stating that I changed my advanced healthcare directive, and this is the one to follow, and the date and the time of that. But that would be the number one first thing that I would definitely tell people to go out there and just download it from your state. It's called the Advanced Healthcare Directive, New Hampshire, Advanced Healthcare Directive, California. Download it, read it over. There are people in all states, not just here, me in California, but there are a lot of others. If you need resources to get to people to help you, I'd be happy and honored to help you with those resources. But that's number one. The other thing is that there are a lot of people that have a lot of paperwork, right? Lots and lots of paperwork. You think that one day you're going to go through that paperwork and get it all done and categorize it and put it into date order. And maybe it's for the IRS, and maybe it's, just to have your insurance papers together. So if you can't speak for yourself or you have died, transition is what I use. All your papers are in order for your loved ones to go through easily and simply.
Yeah.
So I would, I go to people's homes and I go through all their paperwork. I put it in chronological order, and I put everything in a place where they can find them. So if you're like, you find out that you have Alzheimer's and you're at a really early stage of it, here in mind and body, I could come to your home and take care of all of your paperwork, so that when you can't speak for yourself anymore, someone can come in and say, okay, here is where all the information is. It's called exit papers. And an exit papers file. So for instance, I published this book last year. It's called Exit Papers 101. Mm-hmm. This is a photograph that I took at Swami's Beach in Encinitas, California, where I live. But all of this are checklists, just checklists of everything you could possibly need to have in any part of your life prior to your death. And at the beginning of the book is pre-modules, and in the pre-modules it shares, as you go through the book in your checklist, it just shares with you different aspects. Sorry, on a share or something, but the first is the locations of your documents, your valuables, your collectibles, your social security cards, your passports, where are they located, and any notes or comments on it. So when you go through each chapter and you finish and complete the chapter, you just take that information, the little notes of it, and put it into the front of the book, so your loved ones can come right to the front of the book.
That is so helpful. And I mean, yeah, so my dad had his house in Ringe, New Hampshire, where we grew up in. The Jackmans were there 20 years. And the last time he was ever there was the day my brother and I drove him up to Dartmouth, and he said something incredibly prophetic and kind of just punched me in the gut. He looked around, he's like, this is the last time I'll ever be here. And we were like, oh no, Dad, we're just going to go figure out what this is, and you'll be back here. And he was right. That was literally, that was like the last time he really could walk on his own, because the tumor impacted part of his brain that he lost complete function in the left side of his body. So he couldn't walk anymore the last 5 months of his life. But he said that, and that was the last time he was ever at that house that he bought and built up and raised a family in for 20 years. So when it got to a point where we kind of had the timeline and we knew how much time he had left, we had to deal with the house. We had to deal with all of his stuff. We had to, all of that. And boy, to have someone like you or a process in place or something in line to mitigate that and streamline that process would be amazing, would be helpful. So I think that's incredible that you offer that to people. And then of course that's a tough conversation to have when you're fine and you're like, hey, I don't plan on dying in the next year or whatever, 6 months. But to have that in place, that can save a lot of misery and suffering and guessing and because, you know,
And,
we have,
and being a burden, thinking you're going to be a burden on your family. It's like that.
right.
That's not happening. That's not the truth. That's
Right.
not reality.
Having everything clearly already delegated and things in place, all at the wishes and behests of the person who's dying, before they're in that position and situation. That's incredible. It's efficient, and it's pragmatic, and it makes sense. And I really, would like to see people be more pragmatic about death. Obviously, you're emotional and you're a mess, and there's so many times where it's hard to think straight, but someone has to be that figure that is thinking straight and that does have to deal with this and handle those kind of things. And my brother Mike, he was power of attorney. They did that and got that all figured out. So that obviously was good to have that lined up. And of course, power of attorney is someone who can make that call if they do slip into being unresponsive and they're just being kept alive by a machine. Uh, you can make that call, yay or nay, keep them going, or just pull the plug and let them die. So,
And if your dad didn't have the executor or the agent available, it would have been on the hospital. You guys,
right.
and the questions and the fighting and the anger that could have occurred is a possibility. I mean, it happens out there. And so taking care of take care, be responsible, be accountable for your body. Do what you can now, and don't leave it on your loved ones to do. It's not fair. It's not fair. And like for my mom, I said to her a few years ago when I first started moving into this direction and really following my calling, I said to her, hey, what's going to happen to you when you die? What's going to happen to your body, not to you? What's going to happen to your body when you die? She goes, well, I don't know, and I don't care. You and your brother cremate me, bury me. I don't care. And I'm like, whoa, lady, that's not the answer. The answer is, you have been in this body for 83 years. Embrace your body and thank your body for all of your experiences, good or bad, and say thank you to your body and ask your body, what do you want? Do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be buried? And 3 weeks later, she calls me and she goes, I know what I want. And I'm like, what is it? She says, I want to be buried with your dad on Long Island. And I'm like, oh, she's married now for 50 years or so, and to her husband now. And I was like, okay, well, that's great news. So do you have a plot there? Did you pay for your plot? I mean, I know nothing about what you're doing. She goes, no, I'm there. I can do this. I can be up there. And I said, well, now, at that time she was living in North Carolina. And I said, so, if you die in North Carolina, what are we going to do about getting your body up to Long Island? And, what steps do you think we need to take your body through the States to Long Island? And do you know what that looks like? And she said, no, that would be something that my brother and I would have to deal with. And it's like, no. Do you have money set aside? So there are different types of bank accounts that you can set aside for funeral and all your funeral arrangements. So it's never touched until that time. And so she had nothing like that, but now she does. And now she lives up in upstate New York with my older brother. They live about 20 minutes apart from one another now. So she's in New York. It's a lot easier to deal with when
of course. Yeah.
But it's a big question. It's like we have to embrace who we are within this body, and then also, if we believe in spirit or soul that speaks through this body, through our mind and our hearts, then we've got a responsibility to do the right thing with this,
Yeah, well, I'm so fortunate. I mean, my dad has 5 brothers who are all still alive and 2 sisters. So he was one of 8 children. And, growing up, I was close with all of them. I still am close with all of them. And it's really nice whenever I get together with any of them and see them. I see some of my dad in them, obviously, with your parents' siblings. They have some similarities in their appearance and their the way they talk, the things they're into. They're siblings, and it was, I wouldn't have been able to get through that whole deal without my aunts and uncles, and really specifically my Auntie Annie, who was my dad's baby sister. She's like 9 years younger than him. And, she just really stepped up in a big way and helped with all of that, and helped move him from New Hampshire to Massachusetts and got him on Mass Health, the health care they have there, and got him placed into a nursing home and then eventually into a hospice. So yeah, those are all logistical things that you don't ever think about. And like you said, it's obvious when you're alive, it's a difficult thing to address and to approach. But I feel like if you can utilize what you're offering and what the conversation you're willing to have, and thinking about logistics of, it might sound dark and grim, but actually transporting your your body from one state to the next, and the cost that's going to be, and then do you want to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? Do you want to have a funeral, a wake? I mean, open casket, all that stuff.
Right.
And that's
that's the next part. Yeah. Finish your sentence though.
Yeah. So I mean, all of that, I think it's just perfect, and it's great, and I think it's you're honoring that person when you're seeing to it that their wishes are being executed the way that they wanted it when they're no longer alive, and they're giving you a roadmap on how to do it. And then, so whether you're having that conversation while they're dying, or all that's already in place, close the book on it. When the person dies, here's the book, and here's how you're going to do it. I think that's very helpful.
It's like when you were like maybe preteen, teen, talking, getting angry at somebody or something. Have a journal. Did you write in a journal about a day, like today's July something, and I had a really great day today, and leave it at that, and then go back to it another time? Did you ever write it in a journal? That's my question.
I never really journaled. I had some friends who did, and I knew people who did, but I mean, my brother and I have incredible memories. We have photographic, we can remember details about certain days. But yeah, no, I never really kept a journal.
So the reason I was bringing that up is when you write in a journal about anything that's going on in your life on that day or whatever, adding information about what you want, like my best friend, my best friend from childhood, she and I promised each other that at the age of 80, we would go back to a college and smoke pot with all the young boys that were there. We thought that by the time we were 80, pot would be legalized and it wouldn't be a problem. We'd have some fun, talking to these two 80-year-old ladies.
I like that.
And so the thing is that if we start talking about, demystifying this whole process of dying and bring it into our life, and we go to movies, and how many movies do you see that there isn't something or someone that died? I don't know any movie that doesn't share some type of death in a movie, no matter how nice and sweet it is. There's always something that brings you into that moment, even if it's just for a split second. But it changes the whole dynamics of your heart feeling. So you've got, I want to, I was just thinking, I've got a lot of thoughts going through my head right now. So bring me back.
Yeah, so I was just mentioning the arrangements when the person dies. I mean, do they want to have a funeral? Do you want to have a wake, open casket?
Right.
And the cost of a funeral home. I mean, some of these funerals we looked at are 20, 25 grand.
Right.
Who the hell has that kind of money lying around?
and do you really need to do that?
Right.
The other thing is so doing pre-planning, like right now I'm pre-planning and I'm not dying. Well, we're all dying, but I'm not unhealthy. So I'm thinking through my pre-planning, and I've got someone taking care of that with me. She's a death midwife and a funeral director, and she owns her own business. And I trust her, right, with this body. And so she does a lot of work with Fly Me to the Moon. You can fly some of your ashes up to the moon. You can fly fly me out to into outer space. These things are real. This isn't something out of sci-fi. This is what's happening today. You can your ashes can be buried with and start a memorial reef through all the reefs throughout the world. You can pick where you want to be placed. You've got urns, beautiful urns, and beautiful jewelry now that you can wear your loved one's ashes. There are so many opportunities right now. And the biggest part is to really understand what's the difference between, if you are going to be buried, there's, the regular cement vaults that your body's placed down into. There's natural burial grounds on in church cemeteries now. There's certain areas now where you can do a natural, which isn't like vaults and steel. And then you've got green burials, which is being buried in a cardboard casket or a beautiful willow baskets that are handmade and hand braided. Beautiful, beautiful work. Anything that can decompose and be a natural resource to the earth, and or in a shroud. And a shroud is like a sheet of linen or silk or cotton, and you're wrapped into it, and it's beautiful. It's just beautiful. And so for me, living in California, I'm looking for a green burial ground for my body. And I'm going to be buried in a shroud of mushrooms. So it's called a mushroom suit. And this mushroom suit is all these spores of all these mushrooms embedded inside the cloth or inside the suit that zips up. And what mushrooms do is it detoxifies this body. It cleans it up so that wherever it is and how it decomposes naturally and beautifully and turns into a mushroom patch. How beautiful is that?
I like that.
I think it's amazing and wonderful. And so green burial grounds are really what people are doing right now. There's a lot of farms who are turning into green burial grounds. Some of their acres are being placed directly, but there's certain you have to obey requirements that have to be done before they say yes to you having that. But legally you can, well, I don't know in all states, but legally you can bury your dead in your own home backyard.
Now with these farms, are there headstones or are you just thrown out in a...
So no, you're not thrown out there. It's all GPS locations.
Okay, that was the wrong word, thrown out.
So you've got, you'd be able to get the coordinates of of where your loved one is.
Okay.
They also can put like a stone there, or you could have a flower bed, to know where. But for me, I'm not there anymore.
Right.
Who I am within this body is no longer in that body and sitting there and being decomposed. My body is thanking me for allowing it to have a new continuum of life, however it turns out to be.
Well, yeah, I mean, those sites, those are really for the living. It's for the living to go and reflect and still have somewhat of a connection to the physicality that was their loved one. For our dad, we had our dad cremated. He wanted to be cremated, so he expressed those wishes, and he was outraged at the price of what funeral homes charge for their whole deal. He called it a racket, and he said they're not getting a dime of our money, and have me cremated. And cremation, I think, was about $1,500.
That's expensive.
Yeah, does that seem expensive? It's really my only experience. I'm not with the mob, so I've never had to cremate people before. But he was cremated, and we still have his remains in the box and bag that they package it in for you, and then while you're there they try to sell you an urn, and it's like anything else, there's an upsell, and he'd look nice in this urn, and we're like, yeah, we're going to hold off on that. And I really, for Mike and I, and my sister, our ultimate goal, I believe, is, for me anyways, I would like to bring his ashes back to Newfoundland, Canada, where he was born. and just scatter them out into the bay where he was from in St. John's. And
You know, if that feels right, Eric,
yeah,
you gotta, you know, that's what a great journey that'll be for your whole family to go
well,
and do that.
exactly. And my dad never made it back to Newfoundland. He left there in '65 and he was 10, and he always wanted to go back. He just never made it back up there for a visit. So I've always obviously wanted to go there because of my ancestral connection to the place. And I'm just fascinated by that culture up there and the beauty of it and the history of it, with the Titanic sinking off the coast. And
Oh,
my descendant, Captain Jackman, captained a boat called the Algerine that recovered some of the last bodies from the wreckage of the Titanic. So
oh my gosh, what a history! I didn't
yeah,
know
there's
about that.
a
That's
lot of history with my family up there. So and my dad was totally cool with that. He said, uh, bring them wherever you want to, wherever it feels right, and what you think would you guys would like to do. So I know my brother and I are in agreement with that, and we can chat with our sister about it. But yeah, that's I think that would be a fitting conclusion to the physical remnants left of him, and right
yeah,
back
and
out.
you can also, you know, keep some of those ashes and turn them into jewelry.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. There's a
Maybe your
good.
sister would want that, you
Oh
know.
yeah. I mean, we're open to doing anything there. It's not just a little speck of dust. It's a good pile of ash. You don't realize it. I know it might sound kind of dark to some people, but you're carrying the box and the bag around. You're like, holy shit! There's some weight to this.
Yeah, yeah.
But it would be nice. So I'd be able to take a trip there and see where my dad his life began, and kind of a full circle thing. And I still have a lot of relatives up there, so. When all this virus
Yeah.
bullshit settles down and get my passport renewed, I think that might be one of the first trips I'd like to take.
Well, I think one of the biggest things you need to do right now is get that passport done.
Yeah, I got to get it renewed.
Well, you don't know what's going to happen in this world.
Mm.
That's fact. And if you're going to do your passport, then you should do your license too, the one that's international, whatever it's called.
International driving license.
Well, yeah. So it's like a passport in your license, in your driver's license. So that I don't have my license up here, but like right now, you have to have your license updated to this point so that you can travel from state to state now. Yeah,
Really?
on an airplane. So
Okay.
look into that.
Yeah, and I know actually the guy the guy who did the cremation, he gave us the documentation and said, don't lose this, because if you're traveling with the remains,
Yes.
I know this might sound sick to you, but drug smugglers will use this as a means of smuggling drugs and say, I'm transporting the remains of
Ooh,
someone to scatter ashes. We're like, holy shit. And like, you don't even think about something like that,
I yeah, you don't. You don't. And you shouldn't have to. But we live in a, this planet is really asking us to do some changes. Some
Yeah.
in a very, very big way. And I want to just, honor the earth at this moment and just, it's gone through a tremendous amount of pain from us, or due to us doing the things that we do. We are not, we need to find the love back in our hearts and experience that essence of pure love out to people. Let them feel something nice, because what a topsy-turvy world.
Oh, I know. Especially these last 6 months, it's just been like one nightmare and one disaster after another. And, just the other day, I took a whole day off of work and got together with some of my best friends and just went out for some food and drink. And just the simple act of doing that for a few hours just felt so good. And just a return to some kind of normalcy and getting back to how things were before, just the simple thing of really taking the time and not going to work for a day, and taking the time for yourself and your friends. Because at the end of the day, I mean, what else do we have?
So food and drink. You met with some friends for food and drink. Are you guys open now for sitting down?
Yeah, so certain counties in New Hampshire, everyone can do indoors, but certain counties are 50%, or you can be totally 100%. Here in Hillsborough County and Peterborough, where I live, I think it's 50%. And then Cheshire County, like where Keene is and Rindge and Jaffrey, I think they're at 100%, just simply because they're a smaller population area.
100% open?
Yeah, where you can have
masks?
Well, that's up to the business. The business can say, wear your mask. But anywhere I've gone, they said you have to wear your mask coming in. And where we were on Wednesday, we were out in the patio. We were outside. We ate outside, and everyone had to be 6 feet apart and wear your mask when you go in and out. So businesses are taking those precautions and taking that seriously. But just to middle of the week be able to take a day off and get together with my closest friends and Mike and have our favorite beer and wings, and it was as if for a few hours that the world was okay,
Well, I think that there's a lot of everything that you and I have ever really kind of talked about is getting deeper into the truth of things, and trying to find some answer within all of this craziness that's happening. Like what's the underlying truth of all of this? And because we're just on the surface, this stuff here. Okay, so in California, they opened up to have us be able to be on patio service, in restaurants, and then they took it away, and then they brought it back, and then it's like you can go to the beach. I live like a mile away from the beach.
Wow.
And I went to the beach twice. The first time I went with a friend, and we went pretty far away from people. But then everybody started walking like right next to us, not even 6 feet apart. Like they could have moved away. We weren't moving. But the point is now I felt so dirty, and I felt like I was getting their junk on me. And I came home from the beach. I said, I'm not going back. I'm not going back until we understand what this is all about. And I went home and I scrubbed my body. And that was weird. It's like I wasn't in control. And so the only way that I was able to get into control of that feeling was to wash my body.
Yeah.
Clothes.
Right.
And so now the Newsom, our governor, has stated that no matter who you are, no matter where you are, you must wear a mask. And so if I'm going to go out and walk my dog, which I don't wear a mask when I'm walking my dog, now it's required. And what are they going to do? What are they going to do? They're going to have a cop police me? And then what? Are they going to start charging me, a fee because I'm not wearing my mask? And if they're going to do that, where's that money going to go? What are they going to use that money for? And it's just more taking away from each one of us, just another takeaway of who we are as a human being. And I went out to the store yesterday with my cotton mask on that my daughter made me, and I could not breathe. I could not breathe. I was in the store maybe 45 minutes. By the time I came out, when I took the mask off, I was sweating, and I was so uncomfortable. And I worry about those that are required all day long to wear them. That if my 45 minutes caused me to sweat like that and feel so uncomfortable, how are those essential workers dealing with all of this? And are they getting sicker because all they're doing is breathing in their own stuff all day long? And get a chance to get outside every 15 minutes to breathe, and then going outside to breathe, you're supposed to be wearing a mask. So there's something deeper in that thought pattern of why and where and how do we move into a different. I think stop watching Netflix.
Turn the pardon my French, turn the fucking TV off.
Here's the other thing. I said to my husband last night, I said, okay, let's not do any technology for 3 hours. Just 3 hours, which I have no problem with, but 3 hours. Hour and a half later, we're on the computer.
Yeah.
Like, you're back on the computer. It's like you asked me a question and I don't have the answer, so I had to get on the computer to get the answer.
That's something I've been trying to make more of a concerted effort towards, is leaving my phone at home. and when I'm going out and being detached from the thing, because our phones now are the 24/7 lights of fear and chaos and anxiety and really control that the whatever you want to call it, the power elite, the people who pull the levers, the people who are running this whole show have over us, and they use and they weaponize it day in and day out, 24/7, 365 days a year. It's just a loop of fear and be afraid and be divided and hate people and hate this person and hate this group and the virus. And it's just it's George Harrison has a great line from one of his songs, until your nervous system starts to tilt. And like lately, I felt like my nervous system is just starting to tilt, from all of this shit. And there's only so much a human being can take. So it's, God, I think we're reaching a breaking point with it, because you can't keep 400 million people or 7 or 8 billion people on the whole planet, for that matter, cooped up. And
so think about that for a moment. Think about the people who have phobias.
Yeah.
And how are they releasing their phobias out into the world? Are they the people that can't deal with it anymore? And are those black masked, black clothing people that come in after the peaceful protesters? Who are they really, and where do they come from? And here's the other weird thing: they're releasing prisoners out of prisons here in San Diego, in California. I don't know if they're doing it all over the country, but they're releasing offenders, I guess, who have been in jail for 180 days, something like that. I don't know what their reasons for being incarcerated are, but what's that, and who are they, and where are they being released to, and should we be worried about that? And what are their names? I mean, we have like different organizations that say pedophiles are you have to name yourself on these. I think it's called
a registry.
Yeah, it's like the same thing. It's like, so who are you releasing? I'd like to know.
Yeah. It's there's so much weird shit happening with this virus and the fallout from it. And I mean, I watched a very powerful movie, a German movie called The Lives of Others, about the Stasi in the 80s and spying on your neighbors and bugging people's apartments. And, now we have contact tracing and people who are getting jobs and being paid money by the government to work on these apps on our phones that can track where you are. And it's all tied into your banking info, your transportation, your social media history. I mean, we're reaching some really, really weird and scary scary levels right now, and they have the social credit score in China, and that's being unfurled here in America, and the virus has been used to kind of wheel that out in the name of safety and keeping us safe and keeping it. So it's and then you get people, they politicize every aspect of it, and it turns into, I'm on this team, you're on that team, and
right.
Mask shaming and social distance shaming and oh God, it's like,
and it's so weird, right? Because that's not the human.
No,
it's who we are.
It's totally unnatural.
So, unnatural, exactly. So here's the next question, going deep into that rabbit hole, right? If it doesn't feel natural to us as human beings, then why is it feeling natural to some that state they're human? I mean, there's nothing human about disasters the way that they're made materialistically by human beings. Then you can start questioning, are there beings from other places? Is there really such a thing as an alien from another planet? And if they're really here, why aren't they saying, I am not human, I am alien, and I want to be your friend, or I don't want to be your friend, I find you disgusting, spit on me, spit on your face. But at least they're telling you who they are, and you have a response to be able to say, sorry you don't like me, but
Well, I just had I had a great hour and a half conversation with David Icke, and his whole deal is the reptilians, and that they're here, and they're from other wherever they're from, and they're manipulating world events and creating a prison for humanity. And Jesus Christ, the more and more we get into things, the more and more he seems to be onto something about that. Whether it's just the corruption of these people in power that gives them a lizard-like mentality, or a ethos and spirit that is not human, that is devoid of reason and love and empathy, is a complete opposite of all that. Because the people who are running the show, I mean, as you know, that they're not above things like this. And the more power they can get, the more grip they can get over people's lives and control and manipulation, the more they thrive and the more we suffer. So we have to.
So yes, but so we know this is happening. So as a race, and I'm talking all colors, we need to have a bigger conversation so that we can take this conversation and do some planning. And that's what I do with my Beautiful Dying Expo. So what we're doing right now is, because of the COVID virus and all these changes that have happened, not being able to embrace one another on a physical level, we took our expo and turning it into a virtual trade show. And that's happening in November. So what we've done to get people to understand what that's about, and it's all of the people that are in the dying and death industry at end of life planning, from palliative care and hospice to caskets and shrouds and jewelry, even mediums that talk with those that have passed, that have something to share with us today. Whether you believe that or not, I think that some people do, and they want to hear about it. But we started these insights on practically a daily basis. Every day, there's a conversation with somebody that's in the collective of Beautiful Dying, and have something to share about who they are and what they do. So we've had 24 insights so far. And what we've done is we're just sharing who we are to the public, so people can see and know who we are at a very vulnerable state, at a place of knowing who the experts are, who the professionals are out in this world, not just in San Diego or even in the United States, but around the world. And then so people know who we are. So when they come to the expo, they can embrace us and say, "Oh, I saw so and so on that insight she did, and I really liked what she had to say. And oh wow, now she's at the expo with she's got an exhibitor's booth. She's going to do a workshop. She's part of a panel. I really want to know more about what I can do. I want to buy her book." So at the expo, you can have all of these things occur, and it's all virtual. And it's all about meet me on the bench. Meet me on the bench. Let's have a conversation. Let's find out where you're at right now and bring you through this path, this garden path, to where you need to be. And then fill in the gaps in between to make sure that when your experience at the expo is exactly what you're looking for, and building up your confidence and demystifying the process to incorporate it and incorporate it into who you are. It's not separate. It is something that we think about. We all know somebody or something that has died, or we're grieving about. Like when you're in at the last, like with your dad, 5 months to get things in order, and doing it with so much love, and not having a moment to grieve at any point during that process. Those 5 months, there's no time to grieve because you've got business to take care of, and orders to take care of, and then understanding and trying to bring it all in 5 months. So I say, take care of things that you can now, like I was talking about the journaling. So people who have journaled, well, I know as a young person, I journaled all the time. And I would journal about all kinds of things, like, oh, today I'm so pissed off at such and such, and I wish I could hold my breath and die. Or any thoughts about, being so angry with oneself, like losing or not understanding what self-esteem and self-worth is about at any point in our lives, where, you get to a point of knowing who you are at a beautiful space, and embracing who you are within this body. So I I just I invite people to really look at things now. Have any questions and you need resources, I'm here to help. If you want, one of the bigger parts of all of this, which we didn't discuss, is your funeral. And do you want to have a home funeral? Do you want to have a vigil? Do you want to have a home memorial? What does that all look like? Do you want a live funeral? So, and what does that look like? And what is a 3-day vigil as the body is, moving out of this state of living and moving into a new state of its transition? And so those are really important questions and thoughts to think. And then as you do that, for me, when I get to that point, I'm celebrating life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm celebrating life with butterflies, flying off in a visual, or doves flying off, or a new tree being planted. As I go through this process. So I invite you all to just take a breath, breathe it all in. And if you can't be with the ones you love, hug a tree.
I love that. That's beautiful, Michele. And that's, we did a celebration of life for our dad, and it was amazing. We what was nice about it is he passed away, and then we waited, 2 or 3 weeks before we did it. And this is one thing that puts me off about the traditional Western funeral, where it's like the guy dies on Monday. That weekend, you got to have a wake in place, and you're going to be at a stuffy funeral home with 200 people cramming in there, and it's hot, and you're sweaty, and you're crying, and the body's there. I mean, just my dad wasn't into that at all, and none of us were into that at all. He said, "Look, I want a party. I want there to be music, drinking, a microphone, people to speak if they want to speak, and I want it to just be a celebration. Yeah, everyone's going to be sad. It sucks. I'm sad. I'd rather be there. I'd like to be there for the party." But so that's what we did. We rented a hall in Ringe and had a big party. And I think over 200 people came, and some of us spoke. And there was a cash bar. There was a little bit of food, and a couple members of my brother's band played our dad's favorite songs in tribute to him, which was just like
lovely.
Can't get any better than that. More real, what the guy wanted. I just can't recommend that way of doing it enough to anyone who's watching. So it's a tough conversation to have, and my dad recognized, he's like, "Look, this is for you guys. Like, yeah, it's about me, but I'm not going to be there. You're the ones who are going to be there doing it and dealing with it and processing it." So for us in our situation and for him, that made the most sense. And it was just based on what I've seen of other families and other people I know who have had to do the traditional wake, funeral, burial, and all that. It's so stressful. It's so expensive. It's all consuming, and it's just like horrible.
I want to grab something. Go ahead. I'm listening.
Yeah. So, and how we did it and what we did, I felt that was a good way to do it and go about it. And to anyone who's dealing with that right now and having to go through that process, I think it's a good way to do it.
I do too. I was going to share with you, I was telling you earlier that I have a pre-planning for my dying and death. And so the woman that's helping me go through my process, which I'm telling you, once I said, yes, let's do this pre-planning, I know I do it for others, but for myself, I've got certain things in place, but I didn't get this far because I've been working so hard on the expo and sharing everybody else that I needed to come back to me. So she's doing my pre-planning, and she sent me information about a death certificate information, authorization to release, disclosure of pre-need funeral arrangements, and authorization to accept or decline embalming, which is another, don't embalm if you don't have to.
Oh, God.
And then we can talk about that another time, but that's pretty yucky.
That makes me think of the movie Phantasm with the tall man.
I don't know it.
Oh, yeah, he runs a funeral home, and there's embalming fluid and all kinds of creepy stuff.
Yes, I did see it, and that is freaky. I do remember that now. But it's all, any one of these funeral homes have to put their pricing on their website if they have a website, or on their paperwork as you come into their the funeral home. So just to let you know that.
Yeah.
There was, so there's just be responsible and accountable for your body. Don't leave it for your loved ones to take care of at the end. It's going to take so long, and you're never going to go through a grieving process. And there's no reason to, fight with one another over materialistic things, because that's not real. What's real is the memory of the person who's gone, and to complete anything that you have with that person, whether there's regrets or burdens or stories of your loved one that they need to hear, or if you need to share if you're the one who's passing, to share with those people the things that you regret or the love, and just honoring where you're at. Don't wait. Write a letter like the one that you heard earlier today.
100%. That is so well said. Well, Michele, where can people find your website and your information? How can people get in touch with you?
So as a death midwife, you can come to Beautiful Dying, dying.com. You can learn more about what a death midwife is and the kinds of things you can start moving forward with now and not wait. We also have Exit Papers 101, the book that with all your checklists. It's on Amazon. Exit Papers 101, Prepare for the Final. And also the website for the expo is beautifuldyingexpo.com. So don't forget, it's DYING. And you can email me at Michele, Michele, at beautifuldying.com. So however you'd like to get whatever your needs are, and I don't know them or I don't have them, I will find you within 24 hours information that you need to move forward and take hold of your life and celebrate every moment, because this is the only moment we have. Make it the most precious moment.
That's right. Well, beautiful. And I'll be sure to share all those links in the video description. And I just want to thank you, Michele, today for taking the time with me on this day, Father's Day, and talking about a subject that is real and is true and is organic, and it is actually natural. And more people need to be less afraid to talk about it and go there. And for me personally, in my own end, it really helps to talk about my dad, and when I'm feeling in the mood and open to it. So I really appreciate it.
And I want to honor you and your brother and your sister as well, for taking the steps that your dad said he wanted without question, and followed through with that for him. And there was no qualms or anger between the three of you to do what he asked of you to do afterwards. I'm really proud of all of you, and especially being young, losing your dad at a young age. It was unexpected for one thing, but also just going through it. So grieving happens we could talk about grieving another time, but grieving is really important, and to understand that there's a difference between grieving and depression. And when you can see the fine line of that, then you can know that what's coming up for you in that moment might be something of grieving, as opposed to, I better go take my drugs right now for my anxiety or my depression. Because once you know the difference, you're able to breathe, which is I was going to share with you a breathing technique to help through, but we don't have time now. So another time. Certainly would love to have you back on again. And, it's a great conversation. So thanks to Michele Little, and thank you folks for tuning in, and please like this video and subscribe. And you can find Jackman Radio on all social media platforms, on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We're all over the place. And on this Father's Day, be good to each other, love your family, never lose sight of what's important and real and beautiful in your life, and take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time. Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.